This is the last message in our 7-week Adventures in Consciousness Fall program based on Ralph Huber's writings, Living as Our Awakened Self, which is available on our website as a PDF document. And I want to thank all of you who are wearing violet and or white, or some of us wearing both, and adding to the energy of the 7th chakra as we complete our ascent through the energy centers of the body. The crown chakra sits at the crown of the head, and it represents our ability to feel connected spiritually. So when we fully open our crown chakra, we're able to access higher consciousness.
All aboard! This train is bound for glory, this train. This train is bound for glory, this train. This train is bound for glory, carries us all, we're blessed and holy. This train is bound for glory, this train. This train don't carry no sadness, this train. This train don't carry no sadness, this train. This train don't carry no sadness, fills you up with joy and gladness. This train don't carry no sadness, this train. This train is powered by spirit, this train. This train is powered by spirit, this train. This train is powered by spirit, Christ love's calling, can you hear it? This train is powered by spirit, this train. This train will carry you higher, this train. This train will carry you higher, this train. This train will carry you higher, fill your heart with holy fire. This train will carry you higher, this train.
Say it again now.
This train is bound for glory, this train.
Hallelujah.
This train is bound for glory, this train.
Let me hear you.
This train is bound for glory, carries us all, we're blessed and holy. This train is bound for glory, this train.
You know, that's
I love it. Cheers.
Surely
That's
the
great.
presence is in this place, and in all places, and in all creation. Knowing and accepting this, we behold the divine presence in all creation throughout the world without exception. Knowing that there are many paths to God, many names of God, but only one God, and God is expressing as all creation in all ways, always. In this knowing, we come together this morning to experience and express our oneness and divinity. Thank you, Divine Creator, that it is so and so it is. Amen.
Okay, so it's Saturday, November 14th. I'm rereading part 6 of Ralph's writings, Living as Our Awakened Self. I sense a feeling of overwhelm and wondering, how will I approach the material for Sunday's message? I take my condo outside for a comfort break, free of trying to intellectually figure out my approach to the material. I receive guidance from out of the blue. Relate it to our vision, mission, core value of awareness, and the second movement of our mission-centered partnership initiative. I come back to my computer and the Sunday message writes itself. I reach over and press my staples.
That was easy.
Button. Our Adventures in Consciousness affirmation this week is, I know and experience oneness. I know and experience oneness. If you are willing to know and experience oneness, please affirm together. I know and experience oneness. And if you're not, then step up your willingness and say, I am willing to know and experience oneness. It goes without saying, and I'm going to say it anyway, my purpose in today's message is to support you in knowing and experiencing oneness. The human condition that today's message addresses is duality, the illusion of separation. And the spiritual solution, and there always is a spiritual solution to the human condition, the spiritual solution is non-duality, realizing our oneness. So you might ask, what's in it for me? How about this? To live in a realization of oneness is to be at peace with the world. To live in a realization of oneness is to be in the world, but not of it. To live in a realization of oneness is to live in a state of contentment, peace, happiness, and non-judgmental acceptance. I'll take that. This section of Ralph's writing speaks to the heart of our Unity Santa Fe vision, our Unity Santa Fe mission, the second movement of our Unity Santa Fe mission-centered partnership initiative, and to our second core value, awareness. Regarding the heart of our Unity Santa Fe vision, our vision speaks directly to the illusion of separation. Unity Santa Fe is a welcoming interspiritual community that celebrates the oneness and divinity of all creation. Regarding the heart of our mission is to raise consciousness, transform lives, heal the planet, one person at a time, beginning with me. In his writings, Ralph quotes Amara Madhuri, who wrote, "We can be assured that through our individual efforts to raise our own consciousness, we will not only help ourselves live a more balanced life, we will also simultaneously be raising the collective consciousness of humanity." Wow, I think we're totally in alignment with that. Regarding the heart of the second movement of our Unity Santa Fe mission-centered partnership, Ralph wrote in a document describing the first and second movement. Of the second movement, he said, to live as our awakened self, we must wake up from a conditioned mind, egoic consciousness, to open-hearted, pure awareness, Christ consciousness, shifting from egoic consciousness to Christ consciousness. And regarding the heart of our second core value, which a lot of people don't realize, our second core value is awareness with a capital A. It is a noun, and it's awareness itself, pure awareness. And in the words of Adyashanti, the shift from conditioned mind to unconditioned consciousness, pure awareness, is what enlightenment is all about. So if you want to know how to wake up, to be enlightened, your awakened self, your awareness itself that you are, is already awake. And so it's shifting from this conditioned mind of duality to that unconditioned consciousness of oneness and awareness. In Ralph's words, our true nature's awakened self is that which is aware of all thoughts, feelings, and sensations. Who we really are, our awakened self, is not of space and time, There's no here or there, no past, present, or future. Simply an isness that is beyond any concepts we may try to place on it. There's a wonderful YouTube from Rupert Spira that I was listening to this morning, and he talks about the blank awareness is like a blank screen, and yet on our computer, that screen can show up as email, it can show up as a Word document, it can show up as Zoom. All kinds of things can show up on the screen, but the screen itself is what is a great analogy for awareness. So this open-hearted, pure awareness is called non-duality. And non-duality simply means not two. In other words, there is no separation in life. All is one. It's our human dualistic thinking nature that makes it seem as if things exist separately. Non-duality is a mature state of consciousness. It's a state of consciousness in which the idea of separation, the idea of there being an I and an other, is transcended. And there's a realization that consciousness is the one reality. I like to say it this way: we is one. Now, that may not be grammatically correct, but it is non-duality correct. So to live in the peace of our awakened self is to realize oneness, to not be caught up in the seeming dualities of life, the sense of separation of right, wrong, good, evil, matter, mind, self, other, physical, metaphysical, etc., etc. And to instead embrace our wholeness, our oneness. To live as our awakened self is to know, and I always put that word know, K-N-O-W, in all caps, in the Middle Eastern sense of the word to know, which means with every cell and atom of our bodies, our hearts, our souls, our minds. To know I am one with everything and everyone. We is one. To live as our awakened self in this knowing of oneness is to be at peace with the world. It's to live in contentment, peace, happiness, non-judgmental acceptance of everyone and everything. And that includes lifestyles, behavior, beliefs, seeing them all as being equal and right, no matter how much we may disagree with them. Western science has concluded the universe consists of a single substance, and all sense of being, consciousness, arises from that single substance, that consciousness. That fundamentally, science recognizes that we are all individual expressions of a single entity, inextricably connected to one another. We are all drops or waves in the same ocean. We are one with the ocean. When that drop goes into it, there's no distinguishing it from the rest of the ocean. When that wave breaks, it's not separate. It goes back into its oneness. We don't see that distinction. So despite all appearances to the contrary, we are inextricably one. We are connected to one another. Now, I can hear you all thinking, well, that's easy enough to say, but isn't unity about practical spirituality? How practical is this? Well, let's look at some specific implications outlined by Ralph in describing the second movement of our mission-centered partnership initiative. I don't know if we have this posted on our website or not, but we should have this first and second movement. The first movement of our mission-centered partnership is the idea of being mission-centered rather than minister-centered. We are all leaders in this ministry that is focused on living our mission in the world. The second movement that I'm focusing on today is shifting from a conditioned dualistic mindset to Christ consciousness, our awakened self. And I'll add, out there where the rubber meets the road. It means no longer living in a consciousness of fear, separation, and dis-ease. No longer living in a tense, restless consciousness given to complaint, thoughts of lack, and an arrogant resistance to life's unfoldment. It means no longer living in a consciousness which is addicted to telling stories that argue with life and saying that I or others or the world should be showing up differently than it is showing up. It means no longer living in a consciousness that says, I know better how life should be operating than this universe, which is continually making mistakes. Shifting from a conditioned dualistic mindset to the open-hearted, pure awareness of Christ consciousness would mean living in a consciousness of infinite love, oneness, and healing. Living in a peace-filled consciousness that fully relaxes into the freedom of allowing all of life to be as life is. Living an ever-blessing consciousness of gratitude, unlimited abundance, and a humble surrender to life's perfect unfoldment. Seeing every life experience as a gift for our highest good. It means living in a welcoming consciousness that continuously says, yes, thank you, to how life is showing up. In this same video that I was watching on Rupert Spira, someone asked him, yeah, but how do you do this? And he said, you do it throughout the day. He said, right now I'm doing it in terms of tapping into that, my awakened self, in answering your question. If I leave here and the phone rings and it's my son has left me a voicemail or he's on the phone, then I stop and I go into my awakened self before I respond. It's that simple. And yet it's a habit that we're going to have to build our muscle so that we do it automatically. And the more often we do it, the easier it gets. Part 6 of Living as Our Awakened Self, in part 6, Ralph quotes Robert Adams, who I think sums up the practicality of this. Robert Adams says, it is virtually impossible for your real self to have a problem. When you understand who you are, nothing will ever disturb you again. The world doesn't change, but you do. Your reaction changes. And let's look at the practicality of Unity Santa Fe as a spiritual community, living as our awakened self. Being a spiritual community committed to living a consciousness of heart-centered, pure awareness. Again, all of this is outlined in Ralph's description of this second movement in our mission-centered partnership. It would be being a spiritual community that cultivates a unitive seeing, that is, a single eye, which honors and holds diversity, particularity, polarities in the arms of infinite love. Specifically, a spiritual community that follows St. Paul's advice to put on the mind of Christ. Christ, the eternal reality of infinite love that is our true nature, that is our awakened self, that is awareness itself. It's about being a spiritual community that hungers for something bigger than the small egoic self-achievement and advancement. It's it's desiring to make a difference in the world, for example, through our spiritual social action. It's being a spiritual community that avoids falling into a consciousness of victimhood. Life is against me, duality and drama, and instead falls into a full embrace of life, falling into a full embrace of seeing life as unfolding perfectly, whole, complete, non-dual, for the highest good. As our Unity Mission-Centered Partnership champion, Reverend Dr. Gary Simmons writes, it's about being a community that knows life is always for us, not against us. He also writes, it's about being the way of God instead of in the way of God. It's about being a spiritual community that develops an appreciation of life in an ever-present abundance as source energy. In other words, as one divine self in movement, rather than living in a state of not enough or lack consciousness. I don't know if any of you know about the mythical lack bird. I'll see if I can do an impersonation. Here we go. Okay. Lack. Okay? We don't want to live in that lack consciousness. It's about being a spiritual community that lives in a consciousness of open-hearted, pure awareness that embraces all of life as life is in a continuous flow of loving and being loved. That's all. That's all it takes. I know it's a big order. We can only do it one moment at a time, one experience at a time, one action at a time, one thought at a time, one word at a time. So none of us are perfect. We're going to fall off the awareness wagon, the oneness wagon. But the good news is we can just get right back up again. And because we have this wonderful, supportive spiritual community, we can support each other in getting up again and getting back on the wagon of oneness. And so how do we know and experience our oneness? First and foremost, through prayer and meditation. And what I want to invite, and I'm telling everybody as you read this part 6 of this, of Ralph's writings, to don't try to intellectually grasp this and articulate it. Just surrender to it. Just act as if you understand it, okay? Because your awakened self does understand it. And allow it to reveal itself to you on a human level. And I think about it as sitting in the question. And Rainer Maria Rilke wrote in his letters to a young poet these words: be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart and try to love the questions themselves, like locked rooms and like books that are written in a very foreign tongue. Do not now seek the answers which cannot be given to you because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. So be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart and try to love the questions themselves. Try to love awareness itself and surrender to it that it may reveal itself to you in the right and perfect timing, in the right and perfect way. And there's no better way to have that revelation occur than by spending time in the silence. And another way is that throughout the day, when you catch yourself in the illusion of separation, to remember we is one, and then seek to live this week's affirmation, to know and experience oneness. To affirm it, I know and experience oneness, or at least I am willing to know and experience oneness. And another practical thing you can do is get in contact with me regarding whether or not you might be a candidate for my Unified Mindfulness Meditation course, which I will start teaching on for 8 weeks, starting Tuesday, November 24th. It's the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, because there's no better way to be mindful and practice mindfulness and learn some new techniques than during the holiday season. And this unified mindfulness, I am so excited about because it has taught me how to take meditation from formal practice on the cushion to literally meditating without ceasing in the everyday world. It's a set of tools that you can put in your toolbox to use throughout the day and to practice knowing your oneness, to practice knowing and being aware of awareness itself, literally where the rubber meets the road. So if you'd like to to talk to me about whether or not you would like to be part of this small group, then please contact me at my email or my phone, which are on the website. So in closing, I celebrate our oneness and our knowing and experiencing oneness out there where the rubber meets the road. And let's begin doing that as we sit in the question right now in a sacred time of shared prayer. So I invite you to just take a moment to straighten the spine, relax the shoulders, relax the jaw, and settle into a comfortable posture, aware of this now present moment. Now bring your attention into the body and find relaxation and rest anywhere you sense it. It might be in your big toe or the tip of your nose. Maybe it's in your jaw. It's always present with every exhale. Just feel the feeling of rest with each exhale. And I invite you to practice feeling rest, which is one of the unified mindfulness meditation tools, as you hear the entirety of Ralph's poem that is a summary and foundation for living as the awakened self you already are. Awakened. Let us rest in the perfect peace of who we truly are, beyond all appearances, all concepts, all notions of a separate self, beyond all stories of good or bad, right or wrong, praise or blame, loss or gain. With nothing grasped at, nothing pushed away, nothing special nor not special, and no belief that says life should be any different than life is. For nothing in this universe runs amiss. All unfolds perfectly, yes, perfectly, of its own accord. Why not then just relax in the mysterious, eternal knowing play of infinite awareness? This pure, unbridled awareness of indivisible love, where no problem can reside, neither lack nor worry, no story-rooted judgment of any suffering kind. For what we need in absolute, for when we rest in absolute awareness, all thoughts that claim some life unfoldment is to us a disadvantage, we clearly see as misguided thinking. In truth, we know ourselves to always be fully loved, fully safe, fully free. And with this knowing, there co-arises a grace of ever giving thanks, a grace by which we bless again and then again the totality of being, seeing past its many dueling guises to the benevolent harmony within. And with this deep according, pulsing all that is, we can wholly be in communion by fashioning a heart so singly sourced in healing forgiveness and perpetual embrace that all resistance to life, as life is surrendered. Thus freed, we may be gift of spirit, come to find ourselves awake, absent of all illusory fear, all imposter guilt. Now newly birthed, we live afresh in the perfect peace of oneness, the infinite not two of oneness, who we truly are. And let's know this individually and collectively in a few minutes of silence. As we gently bring our attention back to our bodies, this time and place, silently say, "Thank you, divine awakened self, for the wisdom to live as our awakened self, knowing and experiencing oneness. Thank you, divine oneness. Thank you, thank you, thank you, that it is so, and so it is, and so I am. Amen."